Welcome to the Rosbergs, your marriage coaches. Join Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg, America's family coaches, who bring 4 decades of empowering marriages across the U.S. and internationally for this podcast to equip you and your partner with encouragement and tools for a great marriage. Here now are your hosts, Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg.
Okay, we are the Rosbergs, your marriage coaches, and we are jazzed to be with you today because we're going to be unpacking something, Barbie, that couple after couple after couple brings to us in coaching, whether we were on radio or doing conferences from platforms, and they would just say, man, we got this crazy making cycle going. We can't break it.
Yeah.
We just keep going in circles. And it reminds me a little bit of when we're in the car and we've got Google Maps on. And you know, we ask Siri or Google Map and you get some Australian voice or somebody telling you what to do. And it's always, for us, it's always a female voice. And I'm thinking, I don't need 2 women telling me what to do when I'm driving this car.
I need another woman telling you what to do.
So you like it.
So I come out the heroine. You know, I am looking good.
Yeah. Well, you are looking good, by the way.
Yeah. So anyway, Google Maps.
Yeah. So Google Maps tells you where to go. It tells you how to get there fastest. It tells you where the delays are. And aren't those some of the things we need to learn when we're trying to break the crazy making cycle? And, you know, Barbie, you grew up with a dad that didn't have Siri. He didn't have Google Maps. He had a Rand McNally.
Yeah.
Now, what is that? Because some people listening are going, I have no idea what that is.
This is so fun. We were getting gas to leave town, a week ago? And there's this big Love's. It's like a big gas station. And it goes on for a long time.
Shameless plug there.
And so I go in to grab my bottle of water and I look down and there it says Road Atlas, Rand McNally. Oh my gosh, that's my Marine Corps father. He'd pull out that Rand McNally map. I mean, it had all 50 states, and you could get on any highway or any road, and you could get to where you wanted to go. I'm so thankful today that we do have Google Maps because we all need a map from time to time, whether it's a physical destination, and we're trying to get from where we are to where we want to be in the shortest amount of time, or like our program today, it's when we get in a bout of conflict and we just can't seem to break through it. We need a map. We need a marital map. And so today, as we begin, we're going to take you through an adventure, just a little bit of a journey, and show you a shortcut on how you can break the crazy making cycle and get to your destination of peace and love and tranquility back into your marriage.
Well, Barbie, and the episode just prior to this, we talked about the 5 love needs of men and women. But now we're talking about our book, The 6 Secrets to a Lasting Love. And it's right over my shoulder. You notice it right back there. I feel like
Here, I'm Vanna.
White.
No,
yeah, you're doing it.
Down.
Okay, Vanna, you're doing it.
Go. Wait.
And
how's that?
Yeah, that is good. And you're holding up the whole world right there.
You go.
But we write in there and we talk about a map. And we're going to really unpack that in some other programs.
It's called a marital map.
But it's called a marital map.
And we will come back to it, but I am so enthusiastic about it. It's one of the most incredible marriage maps we've ever made. And you can find where you think you are on the map. And your spouse can find where they think they are, no matter where you are. We give you 6 secrets to get back to the dream marriage. We're going to cover that, as you said, on a different program. But today.
Well, we're going to help our couples crack the code. Because when you're in a crazy making cycle, I mean, it's like getting on, you know, one of those
roundabouts.
We've done that. Remember in Italy one time?
Yes.
Yeah, we were in Siena. And I was so hungry, my blood sugar was dropping, and we were trying to get to a restaurant. It was about 8:00 at night, and I came up to this roundabout, and I started to go around thinking I could exit, and I didn't exit. So I went around a second time, and then I went around a third time, and then there was a policeman, Calabari or whatever they call him, and he had a stick and a hat. And he comes out and waves me over. And I thought, oh, goodness, now what? So remember, I rolled down the window and I said, I don't speak Italian. And he goes, I don't speak English. And I said, well, I don't speak Italian. He goes, well, I don't speak English. And then he waved the stick.
And I said, Gary, he wants you to scoot over, get off the road, get off the road.
But you could interpret it that meant go ahead and leave. And so I just left. And we're not telling you the date because
we're still on the run.
I'm sure it's on video somewhere.
That's right. We are still on the run, and he never caught up with us.
We're still on the run from Italy.
Route 66.
Yeah. It was scary as can be. But we couldn't get out of the roundabout. We couldn't get out of the cycle. Today, we're going to talk about how to get out of the cycle. And we're going to borrow some coaching from Dr. John and Julie Gottman. But then we're going to give you coaching that we essentially give you the antidote to their 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And it's been written, they're on video, they're awesome, it's good stuff. Yes. But we thought, okay, if you don't do that, what do you need to do? So that's not Dr. Gottman, that's Dr. Gary and Barbie, your marriage coaches. So we're going to talk about that. So, sweetheart, identify some of those 4 horsemen that Dr. Gottman and his bride, Julie.
Well, every one of us that are in the marriage movement, we look to them
for
awesome. Their sage advice. Yeah. And so there are 4 characteristics that Gary, I'm going to give it right back to him, is going to describe that they have seen based upon their research. And as we heard it the very first time years ago, I want you to know that I identified that we had been in that crazy making cycle too. So, Gary, begin with number 1.
Well, the first one is criticism. And so if you as a couple are trying to sort through something and the husband or the wife is criticizing, then here's the drill on that. It's not talking about an issue or a specific conflict or a behavior. It's personal. Mm-hmm. So criticism is really personal. And criticism... Yeah, it's an insult, and it leads to something. So if somebody is wagging their finger at you and raising their voice and getting into your spatial, proximity, and they're blurting out all sorts of data, and they're being critical of you as a person, you know what? Your spirit's going to do something. So some people are going to run, some people are going to fight. But what Dr. Gottman says most people do is they defend. Mm-hmm. So if you have criticism and it goes unabated, then it leads to defensiveness. So the person receiving it starts to put up this wall of self-protection because who wants to get, stuff thrown at them? And so it's kind of like, throttled down. So I'm going to defend myself. Now we defend ourselves by projecting blame. We defend ourselves by isolating. We defend ourselves by getting silent. We do a lot of different
raising
things.
Your voice.
Raising our voice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, as you know, you're in the crazy making cycle because you're not getting anywhere by doing this. It's all counterintuitive. So if you have criticism and then defensiveness, it leads to an emotion, Barbie, that we have talked to countless couples in coaching. And now you're getting this through this podcast. And it leads to contempt. And contempt is a really ugly emotion. It's not pure at all. It's the rolling of the eyes, the shaking of the head, the dismissiveness. I think dismissiveness is a good synonym. And if contempt isn't dealt with in a healthy way, then somebody withdraws and they stonewall. And what Dr. Gottman says, 85% of the stonewallers are us. It's the guys. And we stonewall and we pull away.
And yet, he also said that if you've got these 4 characteristics of this cycle of the 4 horsemen going on in your marital conflict, the percentage of the possibility of divorce is...
it's 90-some% if you don't break it. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Gottman, Julie Gottman, they'll take people into their studio up in the Northwest. And they call it the Love Lab, and they'll have video cameras, and they'll have a video camera observing your conflict. And if they see this pattern, so this is all, quantitative research. If they see this pattern and you don't break the pattern, and we're going to give you the antidote today, then you're likely headed for some very deep places in your marriage. And we don't want to do that. So, sweetheart, let's talk about the antidote, because this is Gary and Barbie stuff.
Yes.
And it's good stuff.
Well, and the thing is, okay, we've been married 49 and a half years, and this is how we have changed our conflict resolution.
Yeah.
So when there is critique, a critical spirit, man, I want to run. I don't care if it's my spouse or someone I just know or that's an acquaintance. That's just not what draws me to a person. So we have agreed in our marriage, when there is that healthy tension, when there is that sense of conflict over perspective or values or priorities or any number of things, then what we choose to do instead of criticism is to, and we've established this, by the way, when we are at peace with one another. It's not like when you're sitting in your two chairs and you're having a great big blowout. This is no time to, these are the rules and this is what we're going to do. It's after you kiss and make up and there is peace and calm.
Yeah, baby.
That you can talk about what we're just about to tell you. So what we have tested.
Instead of criticism.
And it is tried and true. Instead of criticism, we lean in, we connect for the purpose of validating. Yeah. It may sound like, I'm realizing that Gary, I'm just going to play it out. Gary's experiencing something really close to your heart and you're feeling emotional about it. Well, what I'm going to choose to do, and the wealth is here because we're going to build a foundation of connection. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to choose to look you in the eye. I'm going to ask you out of curiosity, has something happened?
Yeah. What
are you feeling? How has this impacted you? But I'm leaving great pause for him to talk. And I think it's really wonderful, too, when we leave room for, is there more that you need to say?
So, and when the person, instead of criticizing, when they validate, because that's the word, it's validate and affirm. When they validate what you're experiencing, it takes all of the oomph, all of the toxicity, all the octane
all the hatred, fire.
Yeah, it's like a balloon that just kind of shrivels because you're validating. Yes. So I can see that you're struggling with that, and I want to validate that. I want to affirm you that you're safe in order to unpack it. So think of just doing that, how you can break the back of Satan with criticism, and you can build that sense of validation and affirmation.
Instead of criticism, you're going to validate.
Yes.
You're going to learn more. We can explore what you're going through together. Yeah. We're going to connect.
Yeah.
What if your spouse is hot-headed, hot temper, and they get triggered and blow up? Well, that can really hijack peace and tranquility in your marriage. Yeah. Again, if your spouse tends to be hot-headed, hijacks it, doesn't know how to resolve conflict, again, after you have kissed and made up and come through a real good conflict, then what I'd encourage you to do is we're always going to seek to have peace in our relationship. So if you've had that kind of established ground rules ahead of time, when you're sitting down to connect, then it's a kind of a refresher. Oh, yeah. We agreed. We're going to connect and validate.
So then number 2 is instead of being defensive is to receive. So defensiveness kind of deflects it. Receiving, you know what? It means that we're putting that wall of self-protection down because we have established that the relationship is safe and secure and we're going to receive what the other person has. You know, Barbie, we looked at some synonyms to receiving. What are some of those?
Some of the synonyms? I think we both want cinnamon today, but maybe we should have a little cinnamon in hot chocolate or something. Some of those synonyms are
being open to feedback,
trying to be humble. I mean, that's a work continually for all of us. To choose to be calm, to be open, to discover what's going on, to be calm, composed. And I think this is key. I'm going to be open-minded because I know that I can be very, very, I don't know if the word's opinionated, but I think I'm right a lot. So here's the thing.
I didn't say that.
I want to be open-minded. Why, you ask? That's Italian. All right. Why, you ask?
Yeah, why you ask?
Because I love this man. Because he's of sound mind. Because we pray together, like we talked about in our last podcast, that builds this sense of, I can trust you.
Yeah.
you're seeking God when you make mistakes, but I can trust you. It's building attachment in our marriage. So open-mindedness, I just have to pray to God every day to make me open-minded. And I'm sharing this with you so that I can discover more of who you are, what you're thinking about, where you're growing, where your challenges are. I mean, this is a gift from God, but I am growing in this area.
Yeah. I mean, here's what's curious to me is instead of criticism and defensiveness, if we validate / affirm as well as receive, it doesn't mean we're agreeing with our spouse. So the substantive issues that you're having conflict over, it doesn't mean that you're going to see it the same way, that you're agreeing. What it means is that you are giving freedom to your spouse to experience and express what's on their heart. And that builds safety and trust. So then, Barbie, instead of contempt, which Gottman talks about, which again is a really funky, difficult, toxic emotion.
Yeah, let's define it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, when this is happening, we came up with, it's when you dismiss your spouse. It's when you devalue.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? In marriage? No, there is no room for that. Oh my gosh. To validate, to esteem, to build up, to realize that you need your spouse, that two are better than one. But I'm going to go back to that list, that when there is contempt, there's disdain and there's disregarding and there's disrespect.
Disrespect.
Yeah.
So the answer is the alternative to disrespect. And you know what it is. It's to respect.
Absolutely. And when we respect, I just interrupted you. Well, when we respect one another, it's like you're, in a way, you treat your spouse as though they're a stranger. And you pull out all of those polite manners that your mom taught you about. If you go to a doctor, you want to treat them with respect.
Yeah.
You want to
or a police officer.
Or a police officer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Or your grandma.
Yes.
Or your grandpa.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe your parents didn't teach you this stuff, but they needed to.
But we'll be your parents and tell you it's very important.
Coach you on it.
So use respect, because this is the closest neighbor, as the Word of God talks about.
Your spouses.
Yeah. Loving your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
So if you understand how much God loves you, and the overflow is that I get to love my spouse with the kind of love I've been loved with, then I want to choose to show you respect.
Yeah. And when we show respect, we're concluding that our mate's not our enemy. Now, make no mistake about it. Your marriage has an enemy, and that's Satan. He hates you guys. He hates us. I mean, do you think he likes what we're doing on this podcast? No. I mean, he wants us to isolate and go drive around in an RV and just kind of chill out and not be spending time investing in your marriage and other marriages that you care about. So God's called us to that. And when we turn on one another and we have contempt instead of respect, essentially what we're doing is we're villainizing our spouse. Your spouse doesn't need to feel like the villain. If you've got a conflict and you're scratchy and you're trying to make sense of something, and you show validation and affirmation, you receive one another, and you show respect with one another, it'll take a lot of the heat out of that conflict and it'll allow you to move closer to one another, putting that wall between you down. But guess what? Putting the wall around you up. So you're providing safety and security, and you're walking in humility. And here's the drill. God calls us to walk in humility. When we walk in humility, we are being Christ-like. Guys, when you're respecting your wife and your wife is respecting you, and you're validating each other and you're receiving each other and you're walking in humility, you're being like Jesus. And that's who we want to be like. So we want to be more and more like Jesus. And then, Barbie, instead of withdrawing and stonewalling, what's the fourth thing we can do?
The fourth one is to re-engage. Yeah. Because we all have emotions. We all can be triggered. But if you can talk yourself through it. I love the scripture that says to challenge our thoughts and take every thought captive. I mean, is it true? Is it really, really true? Do you have evidence to support it? So if you can lower your emotions so that you are being logical and you are being calm, to desire to connect to someone who's your spouse, to desire for them to feel safe enough to connect and talk to you. And then as you re-engage, it's as though we've come through a tunnel together.
Yeah.
And it's messy. It's messy, but it's good messy.
And marriage can be messy.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Instead of stonewalling, withdrawing, shutting down, pulling away, creating all sorts of insecurity for your spouse, you do just the opposite. You re-engage. And you re-engage because you elevate the relationship over the issue. And you guys, you and I live in a culture. Many people have a non-biblical worldview. We've already established you've got Satan who wants to destroy your marriage. So we live in a schema, if you will, that often when there's conflict and there's pressure between two people, we allow the issue to trump the relationship. And we got to flip that baby. I mean, we got to say, you know what, you're more important to me than this issue. I love you more than the conflict we're having. You and I are safe, so let's sort this out. I want to re-engage with you. I don't want to withdraw from you. I don't want to run from you. I want to run to you and create the safety. And that's what happens with re-engagement.
I want every one of you to write down what Gary just said, because when you are in the middle of that healthy or non-healthy tension, conflict, and when those words are said through the heart of love, I am not your enemy. We are better together.
Yeah.
All of those things that you just said, then it breaks down the wall that one of you may be wanting to build right back up.
Well, and Paul addresses it in Romans 12:18 when he says, as far as it depends upon you, comma, whenever possible, comma, be at peace with everyone. And, you know, honey, when I was writing
Choosing to Love Again?
Choosing to Love Again, my first book, I guess.
Or Healing the Hurt in Your Marriage?
Now it's called Healing the Hurt in Your Marriage, and your name's on the cover as well, because we rewrote it.
Together.
And you can check that out at our website at americasfamilycoaches.com.
There you go.
But Romans 12:18, it is such a great verse, because what Paul's saying is, as far as it depends upon you, whenever you can, whenever possible, be at peace. We can't control the other person. So when your spouse is being critical and defensive and contempt and they're withdrawing, you got to break the cycle. And so as your marriage coaches, we're going to help you learn to break those cycles. And other episodes will deal with this as well. Because you break that cycle, you know what you're going to do? You're going to enhance the security, the trust, the conflict resolution. It's good for your marriage. It's good for your parenting. Your kids will see it. You know, your friends will see it, your parents will see it, your grandkids, if you got them, will see it, because that is the element, that's the focus of a healthy marriage.
Mm-hmm. You know, in your commenting about the Gottmans and stonewalling and leaving the room or withdrawing, I also wanted to bring up the fact that sometimes in a marriage, one of us wants to solve the conflict now.
Yeah.
The other one may need time. Yeah. Gary, can you talk about why, say, the man might need more time based upon Shaunti and Jeff Feldhahn's research?
I mean, they've been studying some neuroscientists, and what they say is that there's a part of the brain for a man that many times he will hear something, or there'll be a tension or a conflict, and that will get lodged in one part of the brain that's got to process it, and it may take up to 12 hours.
12 hours.
Before he kind of comes to a conclusion. And that's why a husband and a wife can have a conflict, Barb, in the evening. And what they coach, and it's pretty interesting, is to go to bed angry sometimes.
She said it's okay to go to bed angry.
Yeah, and which seems...
And we think the world of them. Yeah. They are tremendous researchers.
Oh, yeah, they're awesome.
But for me, when I was listening to Shaunti and Jeff, who we really think are wonderful, I was thinking about the scripture that says, don't go to bed angry and give the devil a foothold. I really love a clean heart. I love living with a clean heart. I love it, and I want to take care of it. But at the same time, what it gave me clarity on was with the neuroscience that they have researched and written a book out of. I want to encourage everyone, as you are doing, that often a male brain needs sometimes up to 12 hours
to process it.
It's almost like looking at a chessboard and figuring out where you're at and where you need to go. And yet I've even seen this in you. I want to settle things before we go to sleep. You often will take the night and go to sleep and then wake up very clear-headed in the morning.
With clarity.
Because your brain processes differently.
And it's like, voila, I know what to do.
So here's the thing. And I want to share this because we're married just like you are. There are differences. There are physical differences. There are scientific differences. It gave me an understanding when I heard Jeff Feldhahn talking about this. Oh, it's not Gary just choosing to go to sleep. It's not. It's the way a man is. Now, what Jeff did say, which I know you're just big in agreement with, is that tell your wife, I'm going to step away. I need to sleep on this, or I need a little time on this. But tell your wife you're coming back together to finish the conversation.
Yeah.
So
otherwise you create tremendous insecurity and the spouse will feel they're rejected. And then that can be misinterpreted, as Dr. Gottman says, as stonewalling or withdrawal.
Yes.
So when we verbalize that that's not what we're doing, what we're really doing is wanting to keep a measure of self-control so that we're not blowing up or saying things we shouldn't be saying or allowing emotions to get in front of our wisdom. But we just need some time to process. Now, here's the point. If you don't come back to it, then you're really creating more of a sense of insecurity in the marriage.
Great deal of abandonment, rejection.
So you got to.
And for a woman, a woman needs to be loved, deeply, deeply loved forever and told that she's loved. So if you don't, and this is based on the Feldhahns too, and it's based on our book, The 5 Love Needs of Men and Women.
Yeah, kind of all crossing over.
Yes, so that's why we love their material, because it really supports the journey of our book in meeting one another's needs through Christ in marriage. So with that, we've given them a lot today.
We have.
Yes.
Yeah, and we want to encourage you, and we're going to start doing this more often. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or whatever, please take the time to download the program. Go ahead and rank it. And we ask, if it's helping you, rank it 5 stars. Make a comment, share it with other people, talk about it, take a look at the resources. I mean, don't let this just be a passive, one-way relationship. Go ahead and participate. And that will not only help other people, but it will help you.
I want to tell you that I was with one of my granddaughters. I'm always with my favorite granddaughters and my favorite grandsons because they're all my favorites.
Yeah.
But
and you tell each one of them that all the time.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
But this fell on her lap because it was on a visor in the car. And she picked it up last night when we were driving around. She read it and she says, 1-855 Rosberg. She said, is that your new phone number or something? And I said, no, but you're free to call it and leave a question if you want to, or even a comment as to how we're doing as grandparents. So anyway,
so it is a phone number for this podcast.
Call us, yes, please, and leave your question or your comments at 855 ROS. BERG.
Okay, now when Barbie and I were dating, I was working at a hippie clothing store called the Country Cobbler at a mall. And you were working at Joseph's
jewelry store.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, those settings on your ring, I think, started there at least many years ago. And this ring that I've worn for almost 50 years.
And the reason you're bringing it up?
Because everything at Joseph's comes in a gold box.
Oh, yeah. When you get
a ribbon.
When you get a gold box with a gold ribbon and a gold seal, I mean, every woman's heart palpitates.
Pitter patter, pitter patter.
It's the most beautiful. Everything in that store is beyond gorgeous. Yeah. If I just buy something cheap in there, then
there's nothing cheap in there.
There are cheap things in there. Okay. But the point that I'm trying to make is that when you see that box, you know that there's going to be something beautiful in it. So we bring this up as what's the reward of choosing to walk through the crazy making cycle
and breaking it.
It's like opening up a box that is wrapped in gold. It's got the gold ribbons and the gold seal. And no matter what is in it is going to be beautiful. On the other side of choosing these very concepts that we've talked about to validate and to affirm, to receive instead of defend, to respect instead of obliterate with anger, and to re-engage instead of stonewalling. These are Christ-like, life-changing principles. And we pray that you choose to use these in your marriage. And remember, talk about them after you've kissed and made up.
Yeah, baby.
Because there will always be another conflict. It's not if, but it's when.
Yep.
And when that happens, you want to have an understanding of language around, remember, we're going to go into this with calmness,
that's really good.
Seeking connection, and you'll be on the same page.
So we're delighted that we get to partner with you, to love on you, coach you, encourage you. Please listen to this, download it, pass it on to other people. And if you've got your own question, you may look at this and go, okay, Dr. Gottman said this, Dr. Gary and Barbie are saying this. Here's where we tried these 4 remedies or antidotes to the contempt and defensiveness and criticism and withdrawal. And here's what's working. Call us and let us know that. Leave a voice mail, and we won't say your name, but we'll go ahead and interject that. Mike, our executive producer, will put that into the program, and we'll respond to it, and we'll give you more coaching on it. So we're so grateful for you. May the Lord bless you, guard your hearts, you guys. We'll see you next time on the Rosbergs, Your Marriage Coaches.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Rosbergs, Your Marriage Coaches, with Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg. To find out more, go to americasfamilycoaches.com. Once you're there, you can check out the many resources that they have available. From their many books to their informative video series, 6 Secrets to a Lasting Love, they've got all the tools you need to help you grow deeper in your relationship with your spouse and with God. Go to americasfamilycoaches.com and click on the Resources tab. Also, if you have a marriage question, you can call 855-ROSBERG and leave a message with your question. We may use your question on a future episode. We appreciate your prayers and support for this ministry. Find out how you can come alongside us when you go to americasfamilycoaches.com. Just search the top of the index for the Donate tab. Thank you for listening in today. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of The Rosbergs, Your Marriage Coaches, with Gary and Barbie Rosberg.
Marriage, it can be challenging, it can be stressful, and it can be absolutely wonderful. If you and your spouse want to strengthen and enhance your marriage, Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg can help through a new video series, 6 Secrets to a Lasting Love. A strong and healthy marriage isn't just about feelings or emotions. It is truly 6 specific and intentional kinds of love. The Rosbergs offer this brand new study looking at the biblical loves and principles of a great marriage experience. This video series and accompanying workbook is rich with discussion and group questions designed for couples in one-on-one marriage coaching or in a small group study. Find out more at americasfamilycoaches.com.